Further says here,
Many years ago, when we had the
30 days after we
They must have been.
yeah. Anyway,
electricity distribution utility.
it was 800 number in Manchester. But
What happened
anyway,
to,
when
I guess that means as long as
everybody in
these people we don't have to worry about that. I'm just curious where the Granite Basin electricity is coming from.
complaints about
I'm concerned about where is this coming from? And I understand probably 20 people. I personally vote for that, and I just don't see any reason why. So I feel better now about delivery.
instead of stand up and stool in the store.
I don't know if it's for them, but here's for us. You notice that well house by the road? Up by that corner there? Where the lead triangle is, there's a little house that's turning off the road.
Okay, 6 o'clock having arrived, I would welcome you all to the Community Power Coalition Public Information Session here at the Lee Public Safety Complex. And I'm going to turn the meeting over immediately to Madeline Bradley and Andrew Hatch from the Community Power Coalition, who are going to give you a presentation and answer any questions you might have. And with that said, I will get on the way.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for coming this evening. So my name's Madeline. I'm the communications coordinator for the Community Power Coalition of New Hampshire. And we're here to discuss the Lee Community Power, which will be launching this October. So just to get right into it, how Community Power works is Lee Community Power will provide electricity purchased by the coalition with a variety of renewable content options that residents can select from. The delivery will still be done by Eversource or the New Hampshire Electric Co-op, whoever your default utility is. They will still be the ones maintaining all of your poles and wires and doing all of your billing. And lastly, Lee Energy customers will be able to save money and have a variety of power options at different rates, empowering them to have a certain amount of choice in the renewable content they consume. So Lee Community Power combines the buying power of residents and businesses so competitive electric prices can be achieved. And so in advance of the program, all customers in town should have received this letter that is just notifying you that the program is beginning. If you're on a default utility service, you will be automatically enrolled, and just kind of provides some more FAQs. We ask that customers by September 25th, if they want to opt up for a higher renewable energy option or not participate in the program, they make that decision by September 25th. And that date is just to make sure your wants and needs are met before everything's automatically enrolled and you start the program. So the program will begin October 1st. So when your electric meter gets read beginning in October is when your default supply will change to Community Power from your previous utility. And so you will not see a change on your bill until November when your meter is read from starting in October to the end of the month or beginning of November. And just to emphasize, this program is 100% voluntary. People are welcome to join in and out of the program as much as they want. There are no additional fees to leaving the program, and we really try to make it as easy as possible for customers to make choices. So essentially the only change the customer is going to see at the launch of this program is on the electric bill. So here's an example of a bill you would receive from Eversource. So there are two sections of your bill, and the first part is highlighted in yellow, and that is the supplier. And that will read Lee Community Power starting in October. And all that charges is the amount of electricity you consume multiplied by the electric rate. And then the second part of your bill is delivery, and all of that will continue to be conducted by Eversource. And that's where you see some of those additional charges, such as transmission and the system benefit charge. That's what funds all of the state energy efficiency programs. So all of that will remain the same, and you'll still be receiving your bill from Eversource.
Or New Hampshire Electric Co-op, if that's what you have.
Just for information, how many folks are with Eversource? And how many with the co-op? And how many folks are with a third-party supplier? Do you know? Okay, so just a few of you. And finally, do folks here have any net metering accounts? Okay, just a few of those too. We'll be addressing some of those specific situations as we go along, so thank you for sharing.
Okay, so this slide compares the different rate options with Lee Community Power in comparison to Eversource and the electric co-op. So highlighted in blue is Granite Basic, and that is the default plan that Lee residents will be automatically enrolled in. And that is the lowest rate offering at 8.6 cents, which is marginally less than the electric co-op, but definitely more significant savings if you are an Eversource customer at the time. And then above in green, such as Granite Plus, Clean 50, Clean 100, those are different options. You would pay a little bit more in your rate, but the renewable energy content will be much higher in what you're buying.
Just to speak a little bit more about the renewable content, you'll see the circles there. 24.3% is the state mandated amount of renewable content that all providers have to provide. So that is, the Granite Basic is matching those supplied by Eversource and the co-op. Anything up above that is additional content, and so what we do is actually purchase renewable energy certificates, and we choose to purchase those as close to home as possible to help to encourage the development of renewable energy in New Hampshire and New England. So what you're doing by electing to pay a little premium is supporting the development of renewables in the state. And it's a good way for folks who maybe don't have the opportunity to install a solar array or something at home, but you can still have the peace of mind of knowing that you're helping to contribute to the drive towards a higher level of renewables, if that's something that you're interested in doing. But again, as Madeline said, it's completely voluntary and would be something you would do by opting up.
These are just commercial rates for any mid-sized commercial customer. These we match the monthly variable rates that Eversource would do as well, and that is just to maintain an apples-to-apples comparison to make sure customers are achieving good rates. So this is an example of our mid-sized customer. Typically, small commercial would get looped in with the residential rate, which is the card we just saw previously. And then large commercial industrial, those will not be automatically enrolled into the coalition. So some of the long-term benefits that Lee Community Power will provide is competitive and stable rates by maintaining a supply rate that is lower than the distribution utilities default. There are clean energy options, so you have the option to buy renewable and carbon-free power. There is active investment back into the town of Lee. The coalition is designed to enable member towns to develop innovative and local energy projects and programs. And then lastly, there's local control, where the town of Lee has a say in what the energy future will look like for your community. So who we are as the Community Power Coalition is a nonprofit powers agency that is comprised of 2 counties and 57 municipal members, now representing more than 30% of the state of New Hampshire as their electric supplier. We've launched in 42 communities and serving currently around 130,000 customers. And we've been able to save ratepayers $14 million in the first year of operating. And we are now larger than Unitil, Electric Co-op, or Liberty Utilities. And to the right is a map of the different communities that make up the coalition. So there's a lot of distribution throughout the state. And Lee has just joined the other communities in yellow who will be launching this October.
In regards to this slide, the savings, the $14 million, are really the ones in green at the top. So just to be clear, there's a lot more than that in the hopper, if you will, because the folks in blue and yourself now in yellow are all part of this year's launch. So back in April and May of last year, the folks in green launched, and so they had one whole year of operations up until April and May of this year, and that's where that $14 million statistic comes from. So on top of that, there's a lot more savings being passed on through a lot more customers now. And by the time we've finished our enrollment in October, the total number of customers is going to be closer to, I think, 170,000. So things have been moving quite a pace this year.
So Lee has joined all these additional communities in launching Lee Community Power. As a member of the nonprofit, the town of Lee has a say in the coalition's governance and finance decisions. So the coalition is governed by a 20-member volunteer board of directors and various other committees such as auditing, finance, governance, member engagement, all these subcommittees that the representatives from the town of Lee are welcome to join and sit on and weigh in on the decisions of how the coalition is operating. And so we have David Benson and Rebecca Hawthorne as the Lee Community Power member representative and alternate.
One of the neat things about Community Power Coalition is it, as a non-profit, as we've said, we are very much member-driven, and every community has one vote. So it doesn't matter how large or small your community is, you have as much influence in the future progress and development of the coalition.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about customers who are automatically enrolled to this default service, and so we should now hit on the customers who will not be automatically enrolled. And so any person who is currently buying their energy from a third-party supplier, that could be Direct Energy, for example, since you've already made an action outside of your default electric choice, that action is 100% respected and you will not be enrolled. If you did choose to, I would just advise calling your third-party supplier to make sure there's no early termination fees for ending a contract early. Net metering customers, it's not a flaw of the program, but rather just a bug. We are unable to reimburse net metering customers for their energy being produced. So to prevent any issues and confusion, it's just better at the moment to not enroll any net metering customers until we get things figured out with the utilities and being able to exchange the proper data so we can compensate net metering customers. And then for New Hampshire electric co-ops, certain EV and time of day rates will not be. We don't really have to worry about ski areas here. And then unmetered outdoor lighting service accounts. And then for Eversource customers, large general service, backup service, commercial industrial, EV charging station customers, these different rate classes below. If you've fallen under one of these rate classes, you probably know, if you do, you'll not be automatically enrolled. And if one of these exceptions applies to you and you want to learn more or double check to make sure you weren't enrolled or you still want to be enrolled regardless, please feel free to call 1-866-603-POWER or send an email to info@communitypowernh.gov. So for our net metering customers in the room, net metering customers identified by the distribution utility will not be automatically enrolled, just to reemphasize that. This is just some more information on what's preventing us from allowing this. I'm happy to get more into this with you after the meeting, or if you want to bring up some questions. Net meter customers who elect to opt into community power will no longer receive any credits as an offset supply for electricity that they generate in addition to their usage each month until the issues with the utilities are resolved. And the coalition is actively engaging with the New Hampshire Public Utility Commission, or the PUC, to resolve this issue and bring utilities into compliance with New Hampshire law and regulatory rules, so then we will be able to enroll and serve net metering customers.
It's a disappointing fact that we're standing here today and we still haven't been able to resolve this, but along with our volunteer boards, we hired our CEO, Brian Cownan, over a year ago now. He has over 25 years of experience in power markets and power procurement, and he came from the New Hampshire Electric Co-op and was helping them to develop a lot of innovative products. And prior to that, had a long career over in Vermont. And along with that, we have other folks who are involved in the different aspects of running the coalition. And one person that we have is a director of legislative affairs, and Dina Dennis is responsible for representing our communities and our ratepayers, both at the Public Utilities Commission and at the legislature. And we are engaged in a fairly detailed discussion about how to resolve these net metering issues with the utilities. I'm pleased to say we've already made some progress. The Public Utilities Commission have said very clearly to the utilities that the law doesn't need to change, they just need to get into compliance. But until such time as that can be resolved, we're in a difficult situation of not being able to serve all net metering customers as we envisage we want to. It's very much the intention of the coalition to support the development of more local renewables. So clearly this is a frustration for us. But it's not fair to suggest that nobody can benefit from community power. It's a bit like the third-party supplier. We need to know a little bit about your personal circumstance. So getting in touch with our customer service folks, we have a call center that is experienced in answering questions on community power. If some of your questions are more detailed and things that they don't feel comfortable that they can answer in detail, there is an escalation process, and we will definitely work to get back to you. As Madeline said, there is an email address, info@communitypowernh.gov. It's not as well advertised as the phone number and the opportunity to go directly online, but it is a good way to sort of reach out, and we will obviously try our very best to assist you in any questions you might have. Lee has its own website, and I hope many of you had a chance to review it already. A lot of what you see here is reflected on the website, and you can go and self-serve on that site. It is maintained by the Community Power Coalition, but it is dedicated for the town of Lee. So it speaks to you directly about your current suppliers and information pertinent to your community. So please check that out if you haven't done so already.
Great, and so then just to kind of wrap things up and just hit some of the key points or the main things to take away from tonight's presentation is most customers on Eversource or New Hampshire Electric Co-op default electric supply customers will be automatically enrolled when their meter is first read in this October. Everything will stay exactly the same. You'll just see a lower price on your electricity bill. Participation in community power is 100% voluntary. Customers may opt out prior to or after the enrollment has begun. So if you become enrolled, do it for a couple months and say, you know what, this isn't really for me, you can exit the program at any time. Eversource will still continue to deliver electricity. They own all the poles and wires. They have all the systems to do your billing. They will, if a storm comes, they'll still be there to revive the outage, etc. Everything besides supply with your utility will stay exactly the same. Customer shopping with third-party suppliers will remain with their supplier unless they actively choose to opt in to Lee Community Power. And lastly, Lee Community Power is entirely self-funded by rates by participating customers. No taxes will ever be used to cover these program expenses.
That's great. Hopefully that gave everybody a little bit of a picture of what is involved and what's happening. As Madeline said, on your electricity bill, you will see a change. Each utility bills slightly differently. I know that Eversource does what's called split billing, so when you get that November bill, you'll probably see the first part of the month before your meter read referencing Eversource and its current rate of just under 10.5 cents. And then there'll be a second line item in November which will reference the second half of the month of October, which will be Lee Community Power. And then going forward, you'll see the Lee Community Power rate. We map our rates to the 6-month rate changes of the utilities. So the new rate that is in force now started on the 1st of August and runs through the end of January. And we will be announcing our rates at the same month as the utilities, which will be now, the next one will be the month of December. And so you'll have plenty of warning ahead of time of what our new rates are and what our rate offerings will be. So if folks were to want to find that, you know, Clean 50 is still less expensive than the current Eversource rate, so you might choose to opt up to that, but then if rates came in and they changed and your budget didn't allow that to continue, you would just get in touch and you could opt back to the Granite Basic. There's no penalty. The only limitation is you have to, we have to get the information back to your utility, and then they would honour your wishes after the next meter read. So hopefully that's clear. Does anybody have any specific questions? Yes, sir.
The producers of this renewable energy, do they get the benefit of net metering?
The benefit of net metering. Well, if you're talking about a local person, you know,
I'm
who has their own.
I'm talking about the people who produce the electricity that you're buying, or the electricity you're buying. Do they get the benefit of net metering?
Okay, well, through the Renewable Energy Certificate Program, yes. So
Yes.
On the back of your information letter you received, there's something called an environmental disclosure label, and this explains how we handle the renewable energy certificates and the mandatory requirements from the Renewable Portfolio Standard, the RPS, which is what the state sets as an objective. And as I said earlier, our commitment is to make sure to keep our commitment to renewable energy as close to home as possible. So we have to buy renewable energy certificates retroactively. So just in June this year, we purchased the renewable energy certificates to meet the requirements of all of the customers that have opted into a higher level of renewables during the previous year. And this information here gives you some idea of the mix in terms of the kind of renewable energy that we've been supporting. So we've got hydro, we've got solar, we've got wind, and there's also other forms such as biomass and things that we do support.
That's not my question. My question is, the people who produce this renewable energy, do they get the benefits of net metering? You know what net metering is?
I do understand what net metering is, but if they are a producer and they are, there's a difference between somebody that is actually generating and being a generator that's putting the renewable energy onto the distribution grid, and somebody that is actually enrolled in a net metering program. So the answer to your question is the people that we're supporting here are not net metered customers, but there are people who are, small hydro plants and things like that. They are on a net metering program and they do receive reimbursement from the utility, yes. Okay,
So the producers are members of that program, and they do get free electricity when they're not. In other words, if they produce 100 megawatts when the sun is out, and when the sun doesn't shine, they get 100 megawatt credit for free. That's
Well,
what net metering is.
I'm not sure
Typically
what
net
the
metered,
purpose of
they're
the question.
wholesale.
Yeah,
Huh?
yeah.
They're not typically net metered, they're
Right.
wholesale, so all they do is sell power to the power producer.
Yeah.
So the big people that are making, big solar farms, all they do is sell power. So they actually are at a wholesale rate as opposed to a net meter, which is a higher rate. So it's just a kind of a totally different system. Net meters is mostly your homeowners and stuff that have a solar
And small
array.
businesses.
So you're saying that the producers who produce this renewable energy do not get any credit back when they don't produce electricity? In other words, they don't get any of that?
No, they
net
just sell it
metering?
straight. If they produce 50 megawatts one month and 0 the next, they only get paid for the first 50 megawatts that 1 month.
Okay, I guess it's not quite clear just yet. But net metering means that when you produce a certain amount when the sun shines, which means that the electricity is usually worthless because it's not needed during the day in New Hampshire. And then when the sun doesn't shine, then the producer gets the electricity back for free. So if they belong to if the producer belongs to the net metering program, then somebody's got to pay for that free electricity.
Okay, well, if we could, thank you for your comment, but I think I just want to sort of focus on Lee Community Power and how we interface with our customers, including those on net metering, and how I thought you were talking about how we actually help to generate more activity in the renewable energy marketplace, and that's what I was referring to just in terms of how we satisfy those requirements. If you had a question, madam.
As a third-party carrier, do I then have to call this to enroll?
Yes,
Because I
so,
have no penalty to drop who I am?
Right.
Or do I call Eversource and enroll with them?
no, I wouldn't advise you to do that. It's not necessary. Like Madeline said, just make sure that you don't have any
No, there's no
penalty.
penalty.
If you know there's no penalty to opt out, and I think you showed me your bill earlier, didn't
Yeah.
you? So it's definitely in your interest to enroll in Community Power, and you should just get in touch in whichever way you choose and express your interest. They will just want to have a conversation with you about who your current provider is, and they will take care of making the switch for you.
Okay.
It should be very straightforward.
Thank you.
Anybody else? You first, sir?
Yeah, you talked about net metering and the discussions, the dialogue that the PUC and the coalition has been having. Do you have any anticipated date when we might see this come to fruition, that net metering customers can then get onto this program? Is it a year out, 2 years out, never? Do you have any idea?
Well, as I said, we have made some progress, and we have established the fact that the law doesn't need to change, which is definitely going to shorten the conversation. I think what's honestly going to happen is each of the utilities are going to probably be treated in a slightly different way. So I know, for example, Unitil and the Co-op are probably more progressive in terms of what they've already done to have the systems in place to get the data that we need to be able to provide you with those credits. So that's probably going to happen quicker with those utilities perhaps than it would. Eversource is the largest utility by a long way in New Hampshire, and they have the longer road and the bigger investment to make to be able to provide the data. I don't like diving in the weeds about net metering because a large proportion of folks here tonight are not affected by this, but I will just say, just so that you understand, because this is in the news a little bit right now, there's a new conversation about another net metering standard, and we are all hopeful that the current status quo will at least be maintained, if not improved, to continue to promote the development and have people find it affordable and worthwhile economically to put solar on their roofs. What we're hoping is that we can resolve the issue of data sharing, but there's another piece of the puzzle. It all goes back to net metering started many years ago, and there was so few people, and just the amount of energy produced on the grid as a whole, it was such a tiny rounding area that many of the utilities just got together and made a pragmatic decision to what they call socialize the benefit of net metering. In reality, when the sun's shining and you have solar and you're producing more than you're using, the electrons are actually going out to your neighbors. And they're actually reducing the amount of energy that's need to be brought in to that neighborhood. But that's not how the utilities recognize that. It's actually right across the whole of New England, it's socialized. Not a good word, but it's how they use, that's the term they use. And the effect of that to third-party suppliers is that even if we do credit you with the kilowatt hour that you generated, we have to go and buy one and satisfy the load requirements of Lee, because the way that the metering is done up the wires at the distribution and the transmission level doesn't give you that credit and recognition of that local generation. And this is why it's a sticky situation, it's complicated, and we're trying to resolve it. If we get the data, irrespective of the fact that it will cost us money to serve you, we will get you credits as soon as we can. And I would like to think that's months, not years, but you know, this is a situation that has been in place for a long time, and we are the first to really start to push this and try to resolve it. And you know, it's not a quick and easy fix. There's money involved, investment involved, and that takes time to get through the system. But it's our #1 legislative and regulatory priority, I assure you.
And when that changes, will those net meter clients be notified accordingly?
Oh, yes, very much so. And I would encourage you, if anybody's interested, to get more involved than just, you know, excuse my being a bit tongue-in-cheek, but, you know, the tagline of do nothing, save money. But if you want to go further and get involved, I would very much encourage you to go to our website and just sign up for our newsletters and information. We will keep you very much up to speed. We need your help in terms of showing the Public Utilities Commission how much people care. And we want to be able to reach out to you. What we don't do is use your data for marketing purposes. We've talked a little bit earlier about our customer service center. We have a very defined separation of your data and Lee Community Power. So we do that deliberately to maintain privacy, and so we don't have your email address to sort of send you an email or mail you. Now, we've mailed you one of these in order to give everybody notification of what's happening. I'll be right with you now. And we will want to try to keep in touch with you as new rates arrive back in the new year. We will be generating another one of the little postcards that we've been handing out to you, and they will be coming to Town Hall, and we will do our best to notify you all ahead of the change of rates, what the new rates will be, and keep in touch. But unless you get in touch with us and express an interest, we aren't going to be using your data to directly reach out to you. I'll be right with you, sir. You will say something?
I'm curious. I'm always curious. And I would like to ask you a few questions, if I may.
Sure.
Why now? Why are you approaching the towns in New Hampshire now? Why is this happening now? When perhaps, if research had been done, and I hope it had, we could have benefited from this a long time ago. So why is it coming up now? And who exactly is your group? Who are you? And who do you actually represent? Who are you?
I can take this, Andrew.
Please.
So it's actually interesting. So community power was written into the law back in the 1990s, and the issue with the program was customers had to opt in, rather than now it's an opt-out program. And so trying to get enough people within the state to know about it and actively opt in and change their electric supplier, it was incredibly challenging to receive or to create an economy of scale. So we're purchasing energy in larger blocks at a time, giving us that competitive advantage. So we weren't able to do that. And then back in 2020, a group of clean energy professionals, legislators from multiple New Hampshire towns representing multi-different areas, they got together and went back to legislation to kind of reframe it in a way where customers can automatically be enrolled and can choose to opt out. And that legislation is called RSA 53E. And then to be able to get here, the town of Lee had to create a committee and create an electric aggregation plan, submit it to the Public Utility Commission, and once that was approved, it had to come to town meeting where the Lee residents voted to approve the plan, and then hold different information sessions, and here we are now finally launching. And then who we are as the coalition is we are made up by our members. We are a nonprofit, and we are fully governed by our board of directors, which are voted by the members of the coalition, which are the New Hampshire towns. If you have a slide deck in front of you, we have that map, and that represents all of the coalition members, which is more than 30% of the state now.
Part of my question had to do with this woman's question too. Your web address is .gov, so which part of the government is the umbrella department or organization?
We're not part of the government, but what we have created is a government instrumentality, meaning that we are governed by the rules of right to know law, and a .gov address is similar to a municipal address because all of our municipalities, all our members are municipal. The .gov address doesn't indicate that we are necessarily a government entity, but we are required by law to be reporting and have full transparency of all of our plans, our budgets, our performance, and so forth. So that you are going to a .gov website which is secure and managed that way. We have a cpcnh.org website in addition, which is a subsister site that has all of our details at a coalition level and not at an individual level. So the .gov website is is the domain that is then .gov/Lee for you, and all the other 60 communities have their own individual sites as
Thank you.
well.
And the second part of my question is, does your group have any connection at all to the group that's trying to install the windmills in the Gulf of Maine and down the eastern seaboard? Because I know that is a big topic that's under
No,
microscope these days.
no, we're not. What we anticipate doing, amongst many things, our members are all taking different tracks, but the coalition's intent is to try to be able to become an off-taker from renewable energy, to promote the renewable energy by having enough of creditworthiness to be able to be an off-taker of record, is a term that they use, meaning that if there was a development in New Hampshire, and I'm not talking specifically about the wind farm in Maine, but if folks were selling the commercial contracts to the marketplace, we could be buying some of that power and passing on those rates and those savings to our customers. But we are not a developer of project.
But you would be a supporter of that project if it were.
Perhaps.
You would support the development of the Gulf of Maine with the proposed floating windmills that they've proposed.
Well, as I say, as a coalition, we are always talking about goals, and what we're not is a unified, homogeneous group. So what the Community Power Group in Lee chooses to do with its membership might be different than other communities. We are proponents and advocates of local renewable energy and how to help us to improve our energy independence in the state of New Hampshire and in New England. So, I mean, in that respect, obviously, we would be supportive of that. So, you know, one of the reasons that we're standing here today is because, you know, rates have not been as affordable as we might have hoped. We have touched upon the fact that we are offering more competitive rates. Some people ask me, how do we do that? And the utilities are not allowed by statute to profit from the procurement of power, and they are restricted in terms of when and how they can go and purchase it. The investor-owned utilities, Eversource, for example, they have to purchase power on a date certain on the calendar twice a year, and they put it out to bid, and they receive a price, and they are mandated to pass along that cost, that price directly to the consumers. They don't therefore have a lot of incentive to keep the rates as low as possible, and they certainly don't have the flexibility to do it in the same way as the coalition. So we're trying to help have a representation of ratepayers' interests, to help to promote the growth of creative types of energy savings. If we had access to some of the technology that's available today, we might have more choice in terms of how and when we use power, and thereby save ourselves money on different times of day and times of rate use and things, which haven't typically been offered by the utilities. And again, we're trying to promote that and represent the interests of ratepayers and keep the cost of energy as low as possible. That's the best answer I
can add a little bit to the legislation piece. So we have our Andrew had mentioned our Director of Legislative and Regulatory Affairs. And so when like big projects like that or things are coming up, we have a charter that kind of looks at the different bills and dockets coming through that we will prioritize. And when we select an issue to either support or oppose, it has to align with our the coalition's values. And in addition, it has to be a bill or a docket that would immediately impact one of our member communities, if not all. And so that is our priority when we look at the legislation and regulatory affairs. So it's something that coalition maybe value-wise supports, but it's not actively doing anything to support or oppose that.
Just to keep an eye on who's putting their hand up first? The lady in the
Yeah, I'm wondering, I've never paid much attention to the cost per kilowatt and all that on the bill. I just looked at the bill, you know. So with all this going on, I looked, and I'm wondering, this relates to when you reevaluate the charges that you're going to be charging. And for the last year, we were over 10 cents per kilowatt hour. Then it went up to like 12 and a half, but for the like from March to, from my March bill to our July bill, it was down at 8.3. How does that relate to when and how you change your charges?
Right, well, there's two 6-month rate periods that are regular, they don't change. So August the 1st to the 31st of January, that's the one we're in right now. And then the 1st of February to the 31st of July. So from the 1st of February to the 31st of July, I presume you're talking about Eversource, ma'am?
Yes.
Yes, Eversource had an unusually low rate because they were reimbursing you 1.5 cents a kilowatt hour because they had overcharged you in previous rate periods.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And at that time, it was a little bit of an unusual anomaly, if you will. And you'll see now they're back up and in line on the postcard. I don't know if you had a copy of the card there, but you'll see all the different rates. And although Eversource is just a fraction lower than Unitil and Liberty, it's in the same sort of ballpark in the 10-cent range. So that's what happened in that particular case.
So the 8 cents is kind of a false representation.
That was a little distorted in terms of that.
That's too bad.
If you were a commercial customer, they charge you an extra 1.5 cents.
Yeah.
Okay. So it is interesting, and people, are not necessarily tuned into this. So this will probably, community power may, give you greater awareness of that. So please keep an eye on your bill, and we're very, it's very important that everybody is aware of what's happening. We didn't want to have anybody unexpectedly seeing a change, even if it is a benefit to you financially. So check your bills, and if there's any questions, you ever see anything that doesn't make sense in November, please get in touch with customer service. We will do everything we can to answer your questions and resolve any issues. Yes, sir.
I'm a co-op customer. We've been co-op customers since 1985. I don't have any grievances with the co-op. I like the co-op. It's small, it's nimble, and they're not overly large, so they can be attentive to the communities that they serve. We've been buying RECs from the co-op. We pay extra to help them secure renewable energy. We've been doing that for years. On our bill, we pay $3 a month, I think I got this right, per 100 kilowatt hours that we use to help them shop renewables. So in our case, we pay an extra $9 a month to do this. I just want people in the room to know that at least with the co-op, that's available already. And in the end, we know that the infrastructure for the nation and New Hampshire and for the communities needs to be rebuilt. I want to make sure that we're providing the co-op with the ability to do that. And therefore, I support them, and I will continue to support them.
That's commendable and understandable, and in fact, we are all concerned about the co-op. It's a very important organization. Obviously, if it wasn't for the co-op, many rural communities would have been underserved for many years, and they have been responsible for filling in the gaps in where the for-profit utilities were not focusing on the ones that really weren't the return on investment they needed. But I would reiterate that the co-op is still a regulated utility, and it still therefore has the same requirement that it procures power and passes it through at no benefit, at no profit to the co-op. So the only revenues, the support that you're talking about to keep the co-op vibrant is all on the distribution side of the bill. They are exactly the same in that respect as the other utilities. So by being involved with community power, you aren't in any way adversely affecting the financial health of the co-op. I want to be clear on that. And we have, and in fact, I know when Lee went through its electric aggregation plan process and filing with the Public Utilities Commission, you can go check it out on the PUC website if you're interested in learning more. But there was some interaction directly with the New Hampshire Electric Co-op. And in those letters, they made it very clear that the electric co-op were one of the first proponents of community power. They believe strongly in this, and we will consider it a partnership with them. There is nothing we're doing that will destabilize or underfund the cooperative, I assure you of that. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Could you talk a little bit more about investing in community? We went kind of quickly over that. That's part one of my question. Part two would be, I see roughly 40 communities, 40 municipalities, that's 23 and 24 that are online working with you currently. Anything going on there? Anything been implemented with the design to enable member towns to develop innovative local energy projects and programs? That's a big one.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the more important pieces.
It's very exciting. Did you want to speak to anyone?
Yeah, so some of those towns that have previously launched, such as Peterborough and Nashua, so this is a decision made by the individual town, and the coalition just allows them to make this, is they decided to add a reserve, or a piece of their rate going towards a discretionary reserve. So I believe Nashua, it's 0.03 cents, that creates the Nashua community benefit rate. So customers are then automatically enrolled into that rate, which is 0.03 cents higher kilowatt hour. And the money collected from all of that goes into a fund, and that allows the community to build reserves and create a general fund for their town to use that and invest in a local energy project, such as constructing a solar field or improving energy efficiency standards. And it's totally up to the town of at what rate they collect the funds, if they even want to implement that. And it's also to the town's discretion of how those funds are used.
So Peterborough so far, anything else going with the 40?
Well,
Peterborough, Nashua, Canterbury, and Cheshire County.
Yeah.
So pretty much using the money to create a reserve, and then the town can decide how to use it?
Correct.
Oh, thank you.
And that's something that we hadn't covered in terms of the other part of community power that Lee is part of. And that is, because we're a non-profit, what we would be pocketing as a for-profit company as profit, we put into community reserves. So the 8.6 cents rate is the only revenue that the coalition receives. And it is the predominant amount of that is the cost of procuring that power. Then there's a slice, a relatively small slice, that is the cost of operating the coalition. And the piece that's left that would be a profit margin for a for-profit company is actually rolled up into community reserves. So if you can imagine a pie, and the pie is getting bigger, but the slice that says Lee on it is proportionate to the amount of load, the amount of kilowatt hours that Lee is consuming in relation to the whole of the coalition. That is used to grow our balance sheet. And there's a number of reasons that we need to do that, to build a robust organization that can weather any future challenges. So one of those challenges may be rate volatility. We don't know what's going to happen. We know what happened in December, January 22, 23, when rates doubled. We want to have money, cash on hand, to make sure that perhaps if there was some rate volatility, we may be able to reduce some of the volatility and not have to pass all that on to our ratepayers. But net of that, as we grow our creditworthiness, we can get to a certain point, and that will have to wait till we've been operating for at least 3 years and have audited books. But if we have 3 years of audited books and 120 days cash on hand, as they call it, we can become an organization that can procure power at the highest level and cut out a lot of the intermediaries who are continuing to make a profit on the power we procure. So that is going to help all of you, because we're going to be able to buy power even more affordably and pass that on to our ratepayers. And so the reason I'm bringing this up at this point is there's another concept there where, as we as a coalition have this creditworthiness, there are conversations that we're having with communities about being able to support the development of local renewables, not just community by community, but maybe a group of communities getting together. The coalition is designed for the long term, and as we grow, there's going to be a variety of things that may happen and evolve that haven't happened yet. What Madeline just spoke about, we only started at the beginning of this rate period. So the first 4 communities, or the 3 communities and 1 county that decided to do this, were the first ones to move forward. It's all within the operating rules and regulations of the coalition, but it's completely at the discretion of each community. If a community wants to just keep it basic, just save money and be part of the coalition for that reason, that's all good. Nobody's pushing anything. But if Lee is interested in these opportunities and wants to engage, we would encourage you to, as a community, continue to monitor the coalition and what opportunities that it may offer. Our Director of Projects and Programs had meetings in Merrimack County a couple of months ago, and just to get on board with all of the projects and ideas and things that were happening for our members in Merrimack County. I imagine that something similar to that will be happening here and on the seacoast. And it's all in the future right now, because, you know, we're just out of diapers and we're staggering along, but we haven't started to run yet. But as we gain this momentum, we certainly shall. We were able to record $10 million in community reserves in just that first year with those green communities. As we grow, and we are growing, as you can see, fairly fast, those reserves will accrue pretty quickly, and we will be able to achieve our goals even quicker than we were probably anticipating. So that's all good news for you, but it's still a little in the future right now. Hopefully that was a helpful answer for you, sir.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, sir.
I have a question about reliability, maybe an easy question, but I'm an Eversource customer, and if I opt into this program and now I'm paying the lower rate and there's an outage situation, is it really true that I'm going to be treated the same way as far as restoration goes, or how does that work?
Yep.
The lady here is advocating because she is receives power from a third-party supplier. Yeah.
I got it a lot faster than the rest of the town.
Oh, well, I'm not sure you can claim that. but you know, I mean, all kidding apart, it's what we are to the utility is a third-party supplier, and they've been around for many years, and there is no discrimination. Largely, I mean, the line crews are coming and getting power on, you know, as and when they can. They're not really picking and choosing. There is no method for that to happen, even if they would want to. But going back to what I said before, the utilities have no profit motive to do what we're doing. If things had worked out the way that the law was intended 20 years ago, what we would have done is we would have come to town and we would have gotten connected by our utility and be put on to default power. But as soon as that had happened and we got an account number, we would go off and shop somewhere else. Many commercial customers, the larger ones, have been in this marketplace and they do shop with third-party supply, but residential and small business largely haven't. And it has not been the success that the original concept was designed for. What we're doing, and what Madeline spoke about before, by creating a replacement to the standard default and having an opt-out program, means that we have this instant critical mass, and we have this group that has substantial resources to go and procure power advantageously and pass it on to the consumers. So it's a good thing, but it has nothing to do with reliability. You know, the cost of that reliability, we've probably all heard Eversource were talking about anticipated rate hikes, if you will, of up to 45% within the next 5 years on the distribution side. We don't have any control directly over that other than to say, going back to what Madeline talked about with the local reserve funds, one of the ideas in Peterborough is to spend that money on helping folks to weatherize their homes and to get free energy audits and to improve the energy efficiency of their homes and lower the amount of electricity they use. Now, when you lower those kilowatt hours, both sides of your bill go down. So that's how we can help save money on the delivery and distribution side, if that's any help. Yes, ma'am.
I'm just curious, since you have had the program in operation now for a year, do you have any stats on percentage of people who've chosen, once they were they were on the program, that chose to back off the program?
Yes, I don't have the numbers on hand.
I do.
Andrew does. Also, if you go to our website, the .org one, so cpcnh.org, all of those are publicly posted.
Do you have reasons? Do people give reasons for why they decided not to stay with community power?
No, we.
Sounds like a good.
Yeah. I think
project to
it's
do.
partially it's not too important. Also, we really want to respect the customer's privacy and respect their decisions.
I'm an evaluator. I would say that you need to go out and evaluate and find out.
Well, yeah, what we don't want to do is to, you know, put any pressure on people to explain themselves. It is a voluntary program, and so we just take people's wishes and act on them promptly. But this is an opt-action report, and this is what we study a lot, because it's very important to us to make sure that this program is successful and popular. And this one actually just came up, so it was the end of the year report, but in terms of the total number of people who, percentage-wise, opted out of the program, out of 115,450 customers, 2.7% of those folks opted out across all of these launch communities. These are probably only 16 to 20 of the original ones. You've got some higher, some lower, that's the average, but you know, less than 1% is not uncommon to see. But the important point is, on the other side, 2.4% of the people opted in. So it's almost a wash in terms of people joining and people exiting. And then what we're also very interested in is opting up. So it is, I think, only a proof of why we're here today is that despite efforts on many communities' parts to generate a lot of action on opting up, we've only ever seen sort of a 5% opting up to Clean 100. And that's in some of our communities that put a very heavy effort into promoting that. So a majority of folks are probably just going to stay where they are and trust the coalition to help save them money and just, you know, keep it simple. But the folks that are interested and motivated are definitely able to and active to do this. And then our local community energy committees are working to promote that. We've got something called the Seacoast Challenge. Would you remember which of the communities are involved in the Seacoast Challenge?
I don't know if I can remember all of them, but I know there's Portsmouth, Dover, Durham, Newmarket,
Yeah.
and there's a couple other ones, but Rye is one of them, maybe Stratham. And so essentially these towns are all kind of, it's like a friendly competition amongst one another. Their energy committees is doing outreach to their communities and really emphasizing education and the opportunities customers have with their community power programs. And they're seeing which town can get the highest opt-up rate. I'm excited to see those results.
I just noticed that nuclear is down as 0% of the non-renewable energy source. We have a power plant right down the road. Why don't we have any of the power produced by Seabrook? I remember when I was in high school, all the talk about the future of nuclear, future of energy, nuclear power is going to be too cheap to meter, they used to say.
Yeah.
It will be, it's going to be like the fabulous source of energy in the future. But it's not contributing anything here on your chart.
That's correct. Nuclear would be regarded as carbon-free, but it is certainly not considered as sustainable. And it is a conversation that people have very different opinions on. Nuclear provides a base load in this state of somewhere in the 20% range. And nuclear has to stay on. It has to be a base load. It's not something you can switch on and off at will. And it is critical to the supply in New England. So whatever your position on nuclear is, we've got it, and if we didn't have it, we'd have a big problem. So it is what it is, but it is not regarded as a part of our environmental disclosure in terms of renewable energy. But it is argued by many to be carbon-free and an important part of the future.
It's put on the grid and bought by Massachusetts.
I heard that. Any other questions? Thank you all for a very spirited interest and a great turnout tonight. I think, is this our record so far this week? Certainly up there.
I haven't counted yet.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you have anything to say, Andy?
No, thank you both for coming.
Well, thank you all for coming. Congratulations, Lee, and adopting community power.